In a bustling city filled with towering skyscrapers and endless possibilities, there lived a young woman named Maya. She was vibrant, ambitious, and determined to make her mark on the world. But life had its own plans for her one fateful afternoon, when she decided to visit a local bank branch to deposit some money, a seemingly ordinary task that would spiral into an extraordinary tale of pride, prejudice, and redemption. Maya had been saving up for months. Every paycheck from her part-time job at a small cafe went straight into an envelope, tucked safely in her bag. It wasn't much, just $300, but it meant something to her. This money represented hard work, sacrifice, and the beginning of her dream to save enough for college tuition. That day, she decided it was time to deposit it into her account so she could start earning interest. Clutching the envelope tightly in her hand, Maya walked toward First National Bank, one of the most prestigious banks in the city. The building stood tall, its glass facade gleaming under the midday sun. Inside, everything sparkled: polished marble floors, sleek counters, and employees, dressed in crisp uniforms. To Maya, it felt like stepping into another world, a place where success seemed tangible but also intimidating. As she approached the counter, her heart raced slightly. She wasn't used to dealing with big banks. Her family had always relied on smaller credit unions. Still, she reminded herself that this was just a routine transaction, nothing to worry about. A teller named Sarah greeted her curtly, barely glancing up as Maya handed over the envelope. "How can I assist you?" Sarah asked in a tone that sounded more rehearsed than genuine. When Maya explained she wanted to deposit the cash, Sarah raised an eyebrow skeptically. Her gaze lingered on Maya's casual attire, jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie, and her demeanor shifted instantly. "This is unusual," Sarah remarked, scrutinizing the envelope like it might contain counterfeit bills. "Do you have identification? And why are you depositing such a small amount?" Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach but politely complied, producing her ID without hesitation. However, Sarah's tone grew even colder. "You'll need to wait while we verify this," she said dismissively, leaving Maya standing awkwardly by the counter. Minutes ticked by slowly. Maya tried to distract herself by looking around the bank. Other customers were being served quickly, their transactions completed within moments. Meanwhile, she remained stuck, feeling increasingly out of place. Then she noticed something unsettling. Whispers, spreading among the staff behind closed doors. Some snickered quietly, others exchanged knowing glances. A few even pointed discreetly in her direction. It didn't take long for Maya to realize what was happening. They were judging her based on how she looked. As a young black woman wearing casual clothes, she didn't fit their idea of someone who belonged in this fancy bank. Each passing second made her feel smaller and more invisible. When Sarah finally returned, her expression hadn't softened. Instead, she announced loudly enough for nearby customers to hear, "We've flagged this transaction for review. Someone higher up will need to approve it." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of air conditioning. Maya's cheeks burned red as curious eyes turned toward her. She clenched her fists tightly, trying not to cry. All she wanted was to leave, but something inside urged her to stay, to prove them wrong. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a manager appeared. Dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, he introduced himself as Mr. Thompson. He spoke condescendingly, asking questions that bordered on invasive. "Where did you get this money?" he demanded. "Are you sure it's legitimate?" Maya swallowed hard, forcing herself to remain composed. "It's my paycheck," she replied firmly. "I work at Brewhaven downtown." Mr. Thompson smirked, clearly unconvinced. "Very well," he said, "but don't expect this process to be quick." Standing there, surrounded by judgmental stares, Maya couldn't help but recall her mother's warnings. Growing up, her mother often recounted stories about discrimination they faced because of their race. "People will try to belittle you," her mother used to say, "but never let them define your worth." Those words echoed in Maya's mind, now giving her strength despite the humiliation. She thought about walking out, refusing to tolerate their disrespect. But then she remembered why she'd come here in the first place. This wasn't just about depositing money. It was about proving that she deserved to be treated with dignity, no matter where she came from or what she wore. So she stayed, silently, vowing to see this through until the end. Little did Maya know, however, that the worst was yet to come. Unbeknownst to her, fate had one final twist in store, a revelation that would turn her entire world upside down and expose the true nature of those who sought to undermine her. As Maya stood frozen in the middle of the bank, the weight of Mr. Thompson's words pressing down on her, she couldn't help but feel like a character trapped in someone else's cruel story. The manager's condescending tone and the judgmental stares from the staff made her question whether she belonged in this polished, pristine world at all. But deep inside, a spark of defiance began to grow. She wasn't just going to stand there and let them humiliate her without fighting back. Mr. Thompson leaned against the counter with an air of authority, his suit jacket perfectly tailored, as though he owned not just the bank, but the entire city. "We need to ensure everything is above board," he said, his voice dripping with insincerity. "It's our responsibility to protect our customers from questionable activities." Maya's jaw tightened. Questionable activities? Was he implying that she was involved in something illegal? Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady herself. "I already told you where this money came from," she replied, her voice firm despite the storm brewing inside her. "If you don't believe me, maybe I should call my employer and ask them to confirm it." For a split second, Mr. Thompson looked taken aback, but he quickly recovered, plastering a fake smile on his face. "No need for that," he said dismissively. "Let's just wait for the verification process to finish." He turned away before Maya could respond, leaving her standing alone once again. The silence in the room was deafening. Customers who had been quietly observing the scene now resumed their conversations, though whispers about that girl still lingered in the air. Some glanced at Maya with pity, while others seemed amused by her predicament. Even the security guard near the door appeared uncomfortable, shifting his weight from one foot to the other as if unsure whether to intervene or stay out of it. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them away furiously. Crying wouldn't solve anything. It would only give these people more ammunition to use against her. Instead, she focused on her breathing, repeating her mother's words in her head. "Never let them define your worth." Just as she was starting to lose hope, the glass doors of the bank swung open with a soft whoosh. A tall, distinguished-looking man walked in, his presence commanding immediate attention. Dressed in an impeccably tailored navy blue suit, he carried himself with an aura of confidence and power. His graying hair and sharp features gave him an air of wisdom, but his piercing blue eyes held a warmth that contrasted sharply with the coldness of the bank's staff. Whispers erupted among the employees. "Is that Mr. Carter?" one of them murmured. Another nodded nervously. "He never comes to this branch unannounced." Curiosity piqued, Maya watched as the man strode purposefully toward the front desk. For a moment, she wondered why everyone seemed so flustered by his arrival. Then she noticed how Mr. Thompson practically tripped over himself rushing to greet him. "Good afternoon, sir," Mr. Thompson stammered, extending a hand that shook slightly. "What brings you here today?" The man, Mr. Carter, ignored the handshake and scanned the room with a critical eye. When his gaze landed on Maya, something shifted in his expression. His brow furrowed, and for a brief moment, confusion flickered across his face. Then, almost imperceptibly, recognition dawned. "Is there a problem here?" Mr. Carter asked, his voice calm but laced with authority. He addressed both Maya and Mr. Thompson, though his focus remained on the young woman standing awkwardly by the counter. Before anyone could answer, Maya found herself speaking up. "They're questioning whether my money is real, sir," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. She gestured toward the envelope clutched in her hand. "It's my paycheck, but apparently that's not good enough." Mr. Carter's expression darkened. Without breaking eye contact with Maya, he turned to Mr. Thompson. "Explain yourself," he demanded, his tone leaving no room for excuses. Caught off guard, Mr. Thompson scrambled to justify their actions. "Sir, Standard protocol requires us to verify large or suspicious deposits. Suspicious? Mr. Carter interrupted, his voice rising slightly. This young lady has every right to conduct her business here without being treated like a criminal. He paused, letting his words sink in before adding, "And since when does $300 qualify as large?" Mr. Thompson opened his mouth to respond, but thought better of it. Instead, he mumbled something inaudible and retreated a step, his earlier bravado crumbling under Mr. Carter's glare. Satisfied that he'd made his point, Mr. Carter turned his attention back to Maya. "Forgive me for this ordeal," he said, sincerely. There was a gentleness in his voice that surprised her. It was as though he genuinely cared about what she'd been through. Then, almost casually, he added, "By the way, do you happen to know who owns this bank?" Confused, Maya shook her head. She didn't understand why he was asking such a random question. Mr. Carter chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "It's my family, and you, my dear, are my daughter." The words hit Maya like a freight train. Her knees nearly buckled under the weight of the revelation. Memories flooded back. Her childhood spent wondering why her father was absent. Her mother's vague explanations about him being too busy. Could this man truly be her father? Meanwhile, the entire bank froze in stunned silence. Mr. Thompson looked pale, his earlier arrogance evaporating completely. Sarah, the teller, seemed ready to shrink into the floor. Even the other customers stared wide-eyed, unsure whether to believe what they'd just witnessed. Mr. Carter wasted no time addressing the situation. "Effective immediately," he declared, raising his voice so everyone could hear. "Any employee involved in this incident will face disciplinary action. Discrimination has no place in my bank or anywhere else." He then extended a hand to Maya. "Come with me," he said gently. "Let's talk somewhere private." Though still reeling, Maya nodded and followed him into his office. Once inside, Mr. Carter began explaining everything, the reasons he'd stayed away, his regret for missing out on her life and his hope to make amends. "I didn't want you growing up spoiled or entitled," he admitted, "but I realize now that absence isn't the answer. You deserve better." For Maya, the experience was bittersweet. On one hand, she finally understood where she came from. On the other, she couldn't ignore the pain caused by years of neglect. Still, she chose to give her father a chance, to see if their relationship could blossom despite its rocky start. Maya sat in the plush leather chair across from Mr. Carter, her mind racing as she tried to process everything he had just told her. The revelation that this powerful man, who owned one of the most prestigious banks in the city, was her father, felt surreal, like something out of a movie. But here they were, face to face in his private office adorned with mahogany furniture and framed awards on the walls. Despite the opulence surrounding her, Maya couldn't shake the mix of emotions swirling inside. Confusion, anger, curiosity, and even a flicker of hope. Mr. Carter leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on the desk. His piercing blue eyes softened as he studied her reaction. "I know this is a lot to take in," he said gently, "and I don't expect you to forgive me right away or ever, but I want you to understand why things turned out the way they did." Maya crossed her arms tightly over her chest, unsure whether to trust him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "My whole life I wondered where you were, why you weren't there for birthdays, school events, anything. Did you even care?" The question hung heavy in the air, and for a moment Mr. Carter looked pained. He sighed deeply before responding. "Of course I cared," he said earnestly. "You're my daughter, Maya. Nothing could ever change that. But when your mother and I separated, we both agreed it would be best if I stayed out of your life. She thought it would protect you from complications." "Complications?" Maya repeated, raising an eyebrow skeptically. "What kind of complications?" Mr. Carter hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "My wealth, my status. It comes with baggage, paparazzi, gossip, people always trying to use you for their own gain. Your mother wanted you to grow up without any of that. She believed you'd have a better chance at a normal life if I kept my distance. Though his explanation made sense. In theory, Maya struggled to reconcile it with the years of emptiness she'd felt growing up. Normal life? She echoed bitterly. Do you know what it's like to hear kids at school ask where your dad is? To lie and say he's traveling for work because you don't want them to know the truth? Mom did her best, but she couldn't fill the void you left behind. Her words struck a nerve, and Mr. Carter winced visibly. I see that now, he admitted. At the time, I convinced myself I was doing the right thing. I thought giving you space meant giving you freedom. But looking back, I realize how selfish that decision was. I should have been there for you, no matter what. For several moments, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was thick, with unspoken feelings, regret, longing, and the weight of missed opportunities. Finally, Maya broke the quiet. So what happens now? She asked, her tone softer but still guarded. Are you expecting us to just pick up where we left off? Because it doesn't work like that. Mr. Carter nodded solemnly. You're absolutely right, he said. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a relationship overnight. All I'm asking is for a chance to get to know you, to make amends, in whatever way I can. If you're willing. Maya stared at him, searching his face for sincerity. Though part of her wanted to walk away and never look back, another part, a deeper, more vulnerable part, yearned for closure. For answers, for connection. Slowly, she nodded. Okay, she said quietly. We'll start small. But don't think this means I've forgotten what happened today, or all the years before it. A glimmer of relief passed over Mr. Carter's features. Thank you, he said simply. That's more than I deserve. A father's remorse. Over the next hour, Mr. Carter shared stories about his life, his rise in the banking industry, the sacrifices he'd made along the way, and the loneliness that came with success. He spoke openly about his regrets, admitting that his ambition had often blinded him to what truly mattered. I built this empire, he said, gesturing vaguely toward the bank beyond the office walls. But somewhere along the line I lost sight of the people who mattered most. My family. Listening to him, Maya began to see glimpses of the man her mother had once loved, the man who had dreamed big and worked tirelessly to achieve his goals. Yet she also saw the flaws that had driven them apart. His obsession with perfection, his inability to prioritize relationships over work. It was a complicated picture, one that left her torn between empathy and resentment. To lighten the mood, Mr. Carter asked about her life, her passions, her dreams, her struggles. Maya hesitated at first, unsure how much to reveal. But as she talked about her job at the cafe, her aspirations to attend college, and her love for photography, she found herself opening up more than she expected. There was something comforting about sharing these parts of herself with someone who genuinely seemed interested. When she mentioned saving money for tuition, Mr. Carter's expression lit up. Education is important, he said. If you'd like, I can help set up a scholarship fund for you. Consider it my way of making things right. Maya shook her head firmly. No, she replied. I appreciate the offer, but I want to earn it myself. That's the only way it'll mean something to me. Her determination impressed him. Fair enough, he said with a smile, but let me know if you change your mind. Justice. Within the bank, while Maya and Mr. Carter continued their conversation, chaos erupted outside the office. News of the day's events spread like wildfire among the staff. Employees whispered nervously, fearing repercussions for their roles in humiliating Maya. Mr. Thompson, in particular, looked pale and shaken, knowing his career might be hanging by a thread. True to his word, Mr. Carter wasted no time addressing the situation. As soon as he stepped out of his office, he summoned the entire branch staff to the main lobby. With Maya standing quietly beside him, he delivered a stern lecture on professionalism, respect, and inclusivity. What happened today was unacceptable, he declared, his voice echoing through the room. This young woman came here as a customer, not a suspect, and yet she was treated like a criminal because of biases rooted in ignorance and prejudice. That ends now. He went on to announce immediate changes within the branch: mandatory diversity training, stricter enforcement of anti-discrimination policies, and closer supervision of customer interactions. Anyone unwilling to uphold these standards will find themselves out of a job, he warned. I won't tolerate behavior that tarnishes the reputation of this institution or hurts innocent people like my daughter. The staff listened in stunned silence, many too ashamed to meet Maya's gaze. Sarah, the teller who had initially questioned her deposit, looked close to tears. Mr. Thompson avoided eye contact altogether, his earlier arrogance replaced by fear. As Mr. Carter concluded his speech, he turned to Maya. Is there anything else you'd like to add? He asked softly. Maya hesitated, then stepped forward. Though her heart still ached from the humiliation she'd endured, she chose to focus on the future rather than dwell on the past. All I ask is that you treat everyone who walks through those doors with kindness and respect, she said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat, because no one deserves to feel the way I did today. Her words resonated deeply, leaving a lasting impact on everyone present. Even Mr. Carter looked moved, nodding proudly, as he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. A new chapter begins. By the time they left the bank, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden glow over the city streets. Maya walked alongside Mr. Carter, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Today had been overwhelming, to say the least, but it had also marked the beginning of something new, a chance to rewrite her story. I'm glad you stood your ground today, Mr. Carter said as they approached his car. Not everyone would have handled it with such grace. Maya smiled faintly. I learned from the best, she replied, thinking of her mother's resilience and strength. But this isn't over. We've got a long road ahead of us, Mr. Carter nodded in agreement. One step at a time, he said. And I promise to do everything I can to make things right. As they drove away, Maya gazed out the window, watching the city blur past. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she wasn't alone, a future where she might finally have the family she'd always longed for. It wouldn't be easy, and there would undoubtedly be challenges along the way. But for now, hope outweighed fear, and that was enough. The days following Maya's encounter at the bank were a whirlwind of emotions and adjustments. Her life, once predictable and straightforward, had been turned upside down by the revelation that Mr. Carter, her father, was not just any man, but the owner of First National Bank. While the initial shock had begun to wear off, Maya still found herself grappling with conflicting feelings about their newfound relationship. On one hand, she was curious to learn more about him and what his world entailed. On the other, years of abandonment lingered like an unhealed wound, reminding her of all the moments he hadn't been there. Mr. Carter, for his part, seemed determined to make amends. He reached out daily, sending texts and calling to check in on her. At first, Maya hesitated to respond, unsure how much effort she wanted to invest in rebuilding their bond. But as time passed, she noticed something genuine in his persistence, a longing to reconnect that mirrored her own buried desire for closure. Slowly, cautiously, she began opening up to him. A glimpse into his world. One afternoon, Mr. Carter invited Maya to visit his penthouse apartment downtown. It's nothing fancy, he joked over the phone, though Maya knew better. From what little she'd seen of his lifestyle so far, fancy was an understatement. Still, she agreed to go, partly out of curiosity, and partly because she felt ready to take the next step in understanding who he really was. When she arrived, the doorman greeted her warmly and escorted her to the top floor. The elevator doors opened into a sprawling living space bathed in natural light, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Modern art adorned the walls, and sleek furniture created an atmosphere of understated elegance. It was beautiful, but also intimidating. Mr. Carter stood waiting near the entrance, dressed casually in slacks and a sweater. For someone who exuded authority at the bank, he looked surprisingly approachable now. "Welcome," he said, smiling, as he gestured for her to come in. "Make yourself at home." Maya wandered through the apartment, taking it all in. Despite its grandeur, there was a sense of emptiness to the place, an absence of personal touches or warmth. No family photos, no mementos from travels, just polished surfaces and expensive decor. "You live here alone?" Maya asked, turning to face him. He nodded, his smile fading slightly. "For years now," he admitted. "After your mother and I separated, I threw myself into work. This place became more of a showcase than a home." His words struck a chord with Maya. She realized that while his wealth afforded him luxury, it had also isolated him. In some ways, they weren't so different after all, both yearning for connection yet unsure how to find it. Over tea, they talked about everything and nothing, favorite books, childhood memories, even random quirks. Maya discovered that Mr. Carter loved jazz music and played the piano badly but enthusiastically. He learned that she had a passion for photography and often spent weekends exploring hidden corners of the city with her camera. These small revelations helped bridge the gap between them, chipping away at the walls of mistrust and resentment. Facing the past, as the evening wore on, their conversation grew more serious. Maya decided it was time to address the elephant in the room, the years he had been absent from her life. "Why didn't you fight for us?" she asked bluntly. "If you cared so much, why didn't you try harder to stay involved?" Mr. Carter sighed deeply, running a hand through his graying hair. "I wish I had an easy answer," he said. "But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of failing as a father. Scared of disrupting the life you and your mother had built without me. So I convinced myself that staying away was the noble thing to do. Looking back, I see how wrong I was." His honesty caught Maya off guard. She had expected excuses or defensiveness, not raw vulnerability. For the first time, she saw him not as a distant figure of authority, but as a flawed human being trying, and sometimes failing, to do the right thing. "I don't know if I can forgive you completely," she admitted. "Not yet, but I appreciate you being honest with me." "That's all I can ask for," he replied softly. "And I promise to keep earning your trust one day at a time." Asanyaron changes within the bank. Meanwhile, news of the incident at First National Bank continued to ripple through the organization. Mr. Carter wasted no time implementing sweeping reforms aimed at rooting out discrimination and fostering inclusivity. Mandatory diversity training sessions were scheduled for all employees, and strict consequences were introduced for anyone found guilty of prejudiced behavior. Sarah, the teller who had humiliated Maya, resigned shortly after the incident, unable to face the scrutiny from both colleagues and customers. Mr. Thompson, the manager, was demoted and transferred to a smaller branch, effectively ending his career trajectory within the company. Though some viewed these measures as harsh, others applauded Mr. Carter's commitment to accountability. To ensure transparency, Mr. Carter launched a public campaign highlighting the bank's renewed dedication to equality and fairness. He even invited Maya to participate in a promotional video sharing her story, not as a victim, but as a symbol of resilience and change. Initially hesitant, Maya eventually agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to inspire others facing similar challenges. Filming took place at the same branch where the incident occurred. As cameras rolled, Maya recounted her experience with poise and grace, emphasizing the importance of treating everyone with dignity regardless of appearance or background. Watching her speak, Mr. Carter felt a surge of pride, not only in her courage but also in the progress they were making together. A growing bond back at his penthouse later that week, Mr. Carter surprised Maya with a gift, a high-end DSLR camera. "I thought this might help fuel your passion for photography," he explained sheepishly. "Consider it a peace offering." Maya stared at the box in disbelief. "This is too much," she protested. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. Besides, I've already missed so many milestones in your life. Let me celebrate the ones I can still be part of." Touched by his gesture, Maya accepted the gift reluctantly. Over the next few days, she tested out the camera, capturing stunning images of sunsets, street scenes, and candid moments with friends. Each photo reminded her of how much joy creativity brought into her life, and how grateful she was to have someone supporting her dreams. Their bond continued to strengthen as they spent more time together. Mr. Carter attended one of Maya's photography exhibits, cheering her on proudly as she received praise from attendees. In return, Maya accompanied him to a charity gala, marveling at how seamlessly they navigated the glitzy event side by side. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged in his world, and vice versa. Looking ahead, those scars from the past remained. Maya and Mr. Carter were determined to move forward. They acknowledged that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but embraced each step of the journey with patience and perseverance. Maya enrolled in business courses, inspired by her experiences at the bank to advocate for economic equality. Meanwhile, Mr. Carter vowed to use his influence to create lasting change, not just within his organization, but across industries. As they stood together on the balcony of his penthouse one evening, watching the city lights twinkle below, Maya felt a profound sense of hope. Life had thrown her curveballs, but she had risen above them, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. With her father by her side, and plenty of work still ahead, she knew anything was possible. Weeks turned into months, and Maya's life began to transform in ways she never imagined. Her relationship with Mr. Carter, her father, was evolving slowly but steadily, like a flower blooming after years of dormancy. While trust didn't come easily, their shared moments of laughter, vulnerability, and mutual respect helped bridge the gap between them. At the same time, Maya found herself growing more confident, not just in her personal life, but also in how she navigated the world around her. The humiliation she had faced at First National Bank was no longer a source of shame. Instead, it became fuel for her determination to create meaningful change. A new perspective. 1. Saturday morning, Maya sat at her favorite cafe sipping coffee while scrolling through photos on her new DSLR camera. She had spent the previous weekend capturing candid shots of people in the park. Children playing, couples laughing, strangers sharing quiet smiles. Each image told a story, and Maya loved how photography allowed her to freeze fleeting moments in time. It made her feel alive, connected to something bigger than herself. As she sifted through the images, her thoughts drifted back to the bank incident. For so long she had carried the weight of that day, the judgmental stares, the condescending questions, the feeling of being invisible. But now, looking at the vibrant faces frozen in her photographs, she realized something important. Everyone has a story worth telling. And hers? Hers was one of resilience. Inspired by this realization, Maya decided to channel her experiences into something positive. She began documenting stories of individuals who had faced discrimination or hardship, but refused to let it define them. From single mothers juggling multiple jobs to immigrants rebuilding their lives in a new country, each subject brought a unique perspective that resonated deeply with Maya. Through her lens, she gave voice to those often overlooked by society. Her project gained traction quickly. Friends and acquaintances shared her work on social media, praising its raw honesty and emotional depth. Before long, local galleries took notice, inviting her to showcase her photography in exhibitions. One gallery owner even offered to sponsor a larger event dedicated entirely to her series titled Unseen Stories. When Mr. Carter heard about the exhibition, he insisted on attending. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he said proudly. On opening night, he stood beside Maya as visitors admired her work, listening intently as she explained the inspiration behind each piece. Seeing him support her dream filled Maya with gratitude and hope for their future together. Lessons learned. While Maya poured her energy into her photography, Mr. Carter focused on reforming First National Bank from within. True to his He implemented sweeping changes aimed at fostering inclusivity and accountability. Employees underwent rigorous diversity training programs designed to challenge biases and promote empathy. Customer service protocols were revamped to ensure every individual felt respected and valued. Even the bank's marketing campaigns shifted to reflect a broader range of voices and experiences. To hold himself accountable, Mr. Carter established an advisory board composed of community leaders, activists, and former employees who had experienced discrimination firsthand. Their role was to provide feedback and monitor progress, ensuring the bank remained committed to its mission of equality. Despite these efforts, resistance lingered among some staff members. A few senior executives grumbled about the unnecessary reforms, arguing that they disrupted productivity and morale. Others accused Mr. Carter of overcompensating for past mistakes, but he remained steadfast, reminding critics that change rarely came without discomfort. "You can either adapt or get left behind," he declared during a tense board meeting. "This isn't just about improving our reputation. It's about doing what's right." His unwavering resolve earned him both admiration and criticism. Some hailed him as a visionary leader willing to confront uncomfortable truths, while others dismissed him as overly idealistic. Regardless, Maya watched with pride as her father stood firm in his convictions, proving that actions spoke louder than words. Bridging two worlds. As their bond deepened, Maya and Mr. Carter discovered common ground in their desire to make a difference. They started collaborating on initiatives aimed at empowering underrepresented communities. Together, they launched a scholarship program for minority students pursuing careers in finance, providing mentorship opportunities alongside financial aid. They also partnered with local nonprofits to offer free financial literacy workshops, teaching participants how to manage debt, save money, and invest wisely. Through these efforts, Maya gained a deeper appreciation for her father's strengths and weaknesses. While his wealth and influence opened doors, they also highlighted the privileges he often took for granted. Conversely, Maya's grassroots approach reminded him of the importance of listening to those directly affected by systemic issues. Their partnership wasn't without challenges. There were moments when their differing perspectives clashed, leading to heated debates about strategy and priorities. Yet each disagreement ultimately strengthened their understanding of one another, reinforcing their commitment to working as a team. Healing old wounds. Amidst all the external progress, Maya and Mr. Carter continued addressing the wounds of the past. Therapy sessions became a regular part of their routine, allowing them to explore unresolved emotions in a safe space. With the help of a counselor, they unpacked years of hurt, guilt, and longing, learning to communicate openly and honestly. One particularly poignant session focused on Maya's childhood memories or lack thereof of her father. As she recounted birthdays spent wondering where he was, school plays missed because he was too busy, and holidays marked by unanswered phone calls, tears streamed down her face. Watching her pain unfold broke Mr. Carter's heart, but he listened without interruption, absorbing every word. "I wish I could turn back time," he said afterward, his voice choked with emotion. "But since I can't, I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt my love again." Maya nodded, acknowledging his sincerity. Forgiveness wouldn't happen overnight, but she was beginning to see glimpses of the man her mother had once fallen in love with, the man who had dreamed big and worked tirelessly to achieve his goals. Though imperfect, he was trying, and it mattered. A shared vision. By the end of the year, Maya and Mr. Carter had become a formidable duo, united by a shared vision for a better future. Together, they attended conferences, hosted fundraisers, and advocated for policies promoting economic equality. Their collaboration inspired others to join the cause, creating a ripple effect of positive change. For Maya, the journey was far from over. She still carried scars from the past, reminders of battles fought and lessons learned. But she also carried hope for herself, for her father, and for the countless individuals whose stories she sought to amplify. Life, she realized, wasn't about avoiding storms but learning to dance in the rain. And dance she did, embracing each new chapter with courage and grace. Months turned into a year, and Maya's life had transformed in ways she could never have predicted. What began as a humiliating encounter at First National Bank had blossomed into a journey of self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. Her relationship with Mr. Carter, her father, had grown stronger with each passing day, built on a foundation of honesty, patience, and mutual respect. Together, they had not only mended their fractured bond but also worked tirelessly to create meaningful change in the world around them. A legacy of change. First National Bank was no longer the same institution it had been when Maya walked through its doors that fateful afternoon. Under Mr. Carter's leadership, the bank became a beacon of inclusivity and progress. Employees who once whispered behind closed doors now greeted customers warmly, regardless of their appearance or background. Posters promoting diversity lined the walls, and workshops on unconscious bias were held regularly to foster empathy and understanding. The changes weren't just cosmetic. They ran deep. Loan approval processes were restructured to eliminate discriminatory practices, ensuring fair access for marginalized communities. Partnerships with local businesses owned by women and minorities flourished, providing much-needed support to underrepresented entrepreneurs. Even customer feedback forms were redesigned to include questions about inclusivity, holding staff accountable for maintaining high standards of respect. Maya played an active role in these transformations. She attended board meetings offering insights from her own experiences and advocating for policies that prioritized equity. Her presence reminded everyone, from executives to entry-level employees, that every decision mattered, no matter how small. Slowly but surely, the culture within the bank shifted, becoming more compassionate and forward-thinking. One of the most significant milestones came when First National Bank received an award for excellence in diversity and inclusion. At the Ilile ceremony, Mr. Carter stood proudly beside Maya as he accepted the accolade, crediting her courage for inspiring the reforms. "This isn't my achievement," he said humbly during his speech. "It belongs to my daughter, whose resilience taught me what true leadership looks like." The audience erupted in applause, many moved to tears by his heartfelt words. For Maya, standing there beside him, it was a moment of vindication, a reminder that pain could be transformed into purpose if one refused to give up. Finding her voice, while working alongside her father, Maya continued pursuing her passion for photography. Her project, Unseen Stories, gained national attention after being featured in a prominent magazine. Readers were captivated by her ability to capture raw emotion and humanity in every frame. Critics praised her work for shedding light on issues often ignored by mainstream media, calling her a voice for the voiceless. Encouraged by the response, Maya expanded her project, traveling to different cities to document untold stories. From rural farmers struggling against climate change to urban youth fighting for education reform, each subject added depth and richness to her collection. Along the way, she discovered the power of storytelling, not just as art, but as activism. Her growing fame opened doors to new opportunities. Invitations poured in from universities, community centers, and international organizations, eager to hear her speak about using creativity as a tool for social change. At first, public speaking terrified her. She worried about stumbling over her words or failing to convey her message clearly. But with practice and plenty of encouragement from Mr. Carter, she found her rhythm, delivering speeches that left audiences inspired and motivated. One particularly memorable event took place at a global summit on economic equality. Standing on stage before hundreds of attendees, Maya shared her story candidly, recounting the humiliation she faced at the bank and how it fueled her determination to fight for justice. "Discrimination doesn't always come in loud, obvious forms," she said. "Sometimes it hides behind polite smiles and subtle assumptions. But silence only gives it power. Speak up, stand firm, and never let anyone tell you your worth is less than theirs." When she finished, the room erupted in a standing ovation. Strangers approached her afterward, thanking her for putting into words what they had long felt but struggled to express. It was in moments like these that Maya realized the true impact of her work, not just raising awareness but empowering others to believe in themselves. Building bridges, as Maya's influence grew, so did her partnership with Mr. Carter. Together, they launched several initiatives aimed at bridging gaps between privilege and poverty. One such program provided financial literacy training to underserved communities, teaching participants how to budget, save, and invest wisely. Another initiative offered grants to minority-owned startups, helping entrepreneurs overcome barriers to funding. Their collaboration didn't stop there. Recognizing the importance of representation, they established a mentorship program connecting young professionals from diverse backgrounds with industry leaders. Participants received guidance, networking opportunities, and hands-on experience, equipping them with tools needed to succeed in competitive fields. Through these efforts, Maya and Mr. Carter demonstrated that change was possible, even within systems resistant to it. By combining resources, expertise, and passion, they created pathways for others to thrive, proving that unity was far more powerful than division. Healing through connection. Despite their successes, Maya and Mr. Carter still faced challenges. Old wounds occasionally resurfaced, reminding them of the years lost to absence and misunderstanding. Therapy sessions remained a crucial part of their routine, allowing them to address unresolved emotions without fear of judgment. One evening, during a particularly emotional session, Maya asked a question that had lingered in her mind for months. "Do you think we'll ever fully heal?" she wondered aloud, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Or will there always be this gap between us?" Mr. Carter leaned forward, taking her hand in his. "Healing isn't about erasing the past," he replied gently. "It's about learning to carry it differently, with grace instead of bitterness. Will there always be scars? Probably. But I believe we can turn those scars into something beautiful, a testament to how far we've come." His words brought tears to Maya's eyes, not because they erased her pain, but because they validated it. For the first time, she understood that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing love over resentment, hope over despair. A new beginning. By the end of the year, Maya's life looked vastly different from where it had started. She had gone from feeling invisible and powerless to becoming a symbol of strength and resilience. Her photography exhibitions drew crowds from all walks of life. Her advocacy work inspired countless individuals, and her relationship with her father gave her a sense of belonging she had craved for so long. Yet perhaps the greatest transformation was internal. Maya no longer saw herself as a victim of circumstance. Instead, she viewed her journey as proof that adversity could be a catalyst for growth, if one embraced it with courage and determination. Every challenge she faced had shaped her into the person she was today, strong, compassionate, and unafraid to stand up for what was right. On New Year's Eve, Maya stood on the balcony of Mr. Carter's penthouse, watching fireworks light up the night sky. Beside her, her father smiled, warmly, his arm draped around her shoulders. "Here's to a brighter future," he said softly. Maya nodded, gazing out at the glittering city below. "To new beginnings," she echoed, her heart full of gratitude and hope. And as the clock struck midnight, signaling the start of a new chapter, Maya knew one thing for certain. No matter what lay ahead, she would face it head-on, ready to dance in the rain.